how we can support women. And we're going to talk about something that we've just decided to do, and it's part of our pivot. So we've pivoted, and I see Sarah is in the room. You're live on stage, Sarah Hawco. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm great. And I see Kyla's in the green room and then Grace Yan. So I'll wait till everybody's on board. But actually, why? It's so hard because I don't know if you're like walking on the stage yet with the virtual thing, or if you're actually in your seat at the, it's kind of a weird feeling, I have to say. I'm actually forgetting that there's a whole other audience watching. It's almost like I'm just interacting this private one-on-one with you all. But hi, Kyla, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. You know what? I've been watching your videos. You've been putting some new videos out there. Kyla's court, and I think I read one of your blogs. It seriously, unreal, right? So I'm going to introduce you. I'm just going to see if I have Grace in the green room yet. And I don't see her yet. So ladies, I am going to introduce you to those that are watching. This is the Success Summit. This is day 2. We are starting our women-owned panel. Now, something really great that has happened during COVID is that we've had the opportunity to kind of look at ways and opportunities that we can help support women. And really, as we're talking about today, the whole focus is how we can support female entrepreneurs, and not just doing this. Our team, I got to tell you, our team across Canada, our network, is like, we don't talk about it, we take action, and we actually lead by example. So I'm so super excited to be welcoming Sarah Hawco. I know that you and I did a success story yesterday, but for those that might have missed it, I want to introduce you as a 2019 Woman of Inspiration, the Nest Award. The Nest Award was one of our newest awards. It was actually born from identifying and celebrating the women that are single moms, that have experienced great adversity, but that have also risen to the top and defied the odds and keep pushing forward, because if you can do it, somebody else can do it too, right? So let's raise up the leaders that have been through that process and give single moms the voice that they need. You're also one of our Universal Women's Network national ambassadors and part of our Universal Women-Owned Selection Criteria Committee. Oh my God, that is like all the alphabet.
Things. So many things.
That's a whole alphabet soup. Okay, and Kyla, you're the co-founder of Hawcopeters. So I have the fancy stuff, okay, for you that I have to say, because sorry about that. I think I booked back to back here. So I just want to read your bio. Oh my goodness. I just had the most amazing panel with 3 great men. And I got to tell you, I wrote so many notes and scribbled all over the place. So Sarah, chartered professional accountant, chartered insolvency and restructuring professional. You hold a master's of law, certified fraud examiner, and a qualified arbitrator. And in your spare time, you teach fitness classes 5 days a week. And you've been doing lives every day for the audience to keep them healthy and fit.
Every day, yeah.
Every day. And I still have yet to be on that early to do that. I don't know where you get your energy, but kudos to you. I'm inspired by that supremely. Next, Kyla, how are you? Kyla's coming in from Vancouver. Kyla, criminal lawyer, partner of Acumen Law Corporation. You're Métis. You are the 2019 Woman of Inspiration Aboriginal Leader, Universal Women's Network National Ambassador, and a part of our Universal Women-to-Own Selection Criteria team as well. Super excited to have you. You lead by example. You are shaking up the legal community. I have never seen one lawyer out on social media like you are, making impact. You've created Kyla's Court, which I really love, because you actually look at cases that should have made more of an impact or gone to Supreme Court but didn't, and you're like, why? And I watch you and I'm like in awe of, you're really so knowledgeable in so many different areas, and you have such a loyal following. I know that through COVID, you ended up being diagnosed with COVID, right? And like, I was like, we're all praying, are you okay? And you know, so you experienced COVID in a much more personal way. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I haven't actually talked to anybody that has been through that. So I'd really love to talk to you about that. And then you kind of said, okay, back to work now. And you haven't stopped. And, you know, so we're really super excited. Just let me give you a little bit of background on Kyla. Routinely appearing at all levels of court, not during COVID, of course, BC, and represented impaired driving and roadside prohibition cases for the Supreme Court of Canada. Your legal education activities also include your podcast, which we talked about, driving law, and the weekly series, my favorite, cases that shouldn't have gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. Kyla is passionate about legal education awareness, and you write your opinions regularly for the Vancouver and Huffington Post. In addition to that, you also mentor. You're an active mentor with the Canadian Bar Association. You do lots of lectures and clinics, as well as with the UBC Indigenous community. And you funded a scholarship at the UBC for Indigenous law students. I think your partner says you sleep 4 hours a day.
A lot more than that.
No, a night, not a day. You're working in the day. You're not sleeping in the day. So thank you so much for joining us here. And I'm not really sure what Grace is, but I know that she is a director of sales and marketing for Caldwell Banker. And right now, with the buildings and the leases and everything, we're at 1 o'clock, and that's right after lunch. So I bet if I had time to check my notes, she'd be like, I'm in the middle of a meeting right now. It's an emergency. So we're going to continue forward with our Women to Own panel. Before we dive into that, I did want to touch base, Kyla. I want to talk about your experience. Like we were talking about experiences for, you know, how people are, you know, responding to COVID from a business perspective. But I want to talk about it, how you, who was diagnosed with COVID, what was that like? We haven't even talked about that yet. So please share with us.
Well, it was mostly really scary. And I was fortunate. My mother and my sister are both nurses. So I was able to stay in constant contact with them by text message. Like every time my fever got super high or I woke up having trouble breathing, I would text them, say, do I need to go to the hospital? What do I need to do? But there was about a week long period where it was really bad, where I thought I might need to go to the hospital. I might end up on a ventilator. Like, this is horrible. So it was hard to stay focused on everything else that I had to do in that time frame, and make the decisions that I had to make, because the world didn't stop, and my job didn't stop. It's just I had to stop.
So now, how high did your fever get?
I think the highest it got was 37.9, so it didn't get into the 38 plus range where they were starting to say, you know, if you're getting in there, maybe swing by a hospital. So that was good. But I normally run quite low, so that's high for me, really high.
And did it feel like a flu? Like, what were some of the, like, you know, when you get sick with a flu, or like, you know, maybe a hangover or something, kind of feels like a flu. But what are kind of some of the different feelings? Like, were you like, oh my God, this is so different than I've ever experienced?
Yes, it was way different than, you know, I've had colds, I've had the flu, I've had everything. And most of those things, because I'm so busy, it's something that I can just be like, okay, I'm just going to power through it, right? I can't stop just because I don't feel well, so I'm going to keep going. But it was something that I couldn't power through. Like, just breathing was difficult. There were times where I was lying down and I couldn't get air in my lungs unless I propped myself up on pillows, and I had to sleep like basically sitting up, because if I laid down, I couldn't breathe, which I've never experienced before.
And how did you sleep at night? Were you scared to go to sleep?
Yeah, I was scared to go to sleep. I would wake up in the middle of the night, gasping for breath. It was like almost like I had sleep apnea, and haven't had it since.
Oh, and I think we're letting Grace into the room, so maybe,
you know, waking up and not getting air in my lungs, and like, you know, on.
And while we're waiting for the connection, there we go. We lost you as you were sleeping up, but I'd asked you the question, were you scared to go to sleep?
Yeah, very, very scared. I was up late most nights because I was so afraid to go to bed, and my fever would be worse at night, which is really common with any type of virus. So like in the cool air. No, like 18, 20 degrees, but I was so hot relative to outside that my breath was like foggy, like you'd get on a cold winter day.
Wow. That's unbelievable. So if I was to take this glass and go, it's a little bit now, but it'd be really, really foggy. I just really was excited, not excited, but I was really curious to ask you how that experience was, because I haven't talked, not in my close circle, anybody that has come close to that. Now, I'm curious, how did you get food? How did you get supplies when you were sick? Like, weren't people around you scared? Like, if your mom is, like my mom's age, she's, 76. And she just like we never saw her. We kept away from her, actually. And then I was the one bringing groceries, but we kept our distance, right?
I had a staff member. My mom and my sister live on Vancouver Island, so I couldn't go see them anyway because there was no way for me there. But I had a staff member at our office who would come and he'd drop off food and files and things that I needed. He'd put them outside my front gate and he'd talk to me from the gate. And then when he left, I would come and pick them up. So we never touched each other or got, closer than I think 15 feet apart.
Wow. So now moving forward, after we go out of COVID, you're still really, really busy. Do you find that your wellness, are you back at 100%? Are you fully recovered?
Mostly, yeah. The one thing that sort of remains is this like shortness of breath. If I'm engaged in any activity, like just walking up a flight of stairs or doing the laundry, I tend to run out of breath. It's getting better with time, and I think it'll go away completely eventually, but whatever happened inside my body, I think really did some damage to my lungs.
Interesting. Well, I know I'm out of breath because I haven't been really that active. I haven't been at Sarah's fitness classes, so I'm out of breath walking because I hadn't been that active. Anyways, I'm so glad that you're well, and thank you for sharing. And yeah, we can't stress enough how important that is, but it's really terrifying and, scary at the same time. So now I want to talk about busy lives, busy people. I've said, and I didn't put this in the questions, but I think it's something that we need to talk about as women, as in leaders, in professions and in our jobs and in our businesses, that, March 11th, I don't think I've stopped. How about you, Sarah? Like, are we going to need to go away to the Rukhsana retreat when the borders open so that we can go and just like lie down and hope that we actually get up because we haven't stopped?
Yeah, no, I'm so busy. And part of it is much of the work I do is with distressed companies. So companies are very distressed right now, as are individuals. So my workload's really amped up, and it's been constant communication and touch points with the banks and the special loans group and the account managers, kind of coaching them through as to taking their temperature and what's going on, and also working with companies and holding their hand through it. And as we discussed yesterday, Monica, a lot of the work I do, I do pro bono. Sometimes I'm just not quite the right person. So I may have 2 or 3 hours of meetings coaching them and strategizing with business owners A and B, and then guiding them with who would best serve them, because I am not their person. Like, I could be your background, but you don't need to pay me. I'm not your person. So I've been really, really busy. What's been nice is that up until today, I've effectively been the only one in my office. So it's amazing how much more efficient, and I'm all about efficiency as a working mother has to be, or a working woman in general.
And a working single mother.
Yeah. So it's what's been great about it being so busy is that there's none of these coffees, lunches, after work get-togethers. So it's been really focused. So notwithstanding how busy I am, I've been able to plow through it. So it's been fun. But part of being busy, and I think we all have to manage, is I schedule everything in my calendar to a fault, insofar as if it's not in my calendar, I'll miss it. Like, it just escapes my consciousness. But that includes everything from workouts, of course, but workouts, meetings, phone calls. If I hadn't responded to an email appropriately, then I'll diarize that for the next day. Just I only have so much space in my head. And so I put it in, and with some exception, maybe it's the accountant in me, I don't like my schedule being messed with. I am not a spontaneous person. Like, I'm fluid and able to adapt, but don't mess with it unless it has to be. So it's keeps me on point, and that's how we do it. But no, there's been no rest for the wicked here, that's for sure.
And I hope that we can talk about last week a little bit about the the hurdle and the challenge that you had to go through.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying to Kyla. I ended up in the hospital last week. I had not COVID. I've had every test on the planet, but just an adrenal system shut down, where I'm so busy, and I lost a full week of work. That's I don't know which was causing me more stress, is thinking about, I'm too tired, I can't even address an email. At least I have my partner, Kent, who I think we need to make us support her. So trying to draft a letter, but knowing that I'm not cognizant enough. So sending it to him, and I'm just not sending anything to a third party, because I actually can't even figure out a spell check right now. So it was, yeah, the world doesn't stop. My children are at least old enough that they were understanding, but you don't get, mothers don't get breaks, women just don't get breaks, right? So the world carries on, and you just kind of muscle through. At least my family was close by. So one of my sisters is a doctor, my mother's a nurse. So I had full court press to a fault, taking pulses and temperatures, and just, I talk about leading into our village and leaning on women. Yes, thankfully, thank goodness I have sisters, and they just picked it up, and my home life still happened because I have a mother and a sister that took care of my kids and grocery shopped, and all I did was lie in a daze and not touch my phone.
How were you? No, I want to get to that, because that's really important right now. I think that burnout, we haven't even touched on burnout the whole 2 days.
Yeah,
and
hospital. Like, what?
The hospital beds aren't full of COVID patients anymore. They're now going to be full of working mothers and female entrepreneurs who are experiencing, and professionals who are experiencing burnout.
Yeah, who have no medical issue other than we're not really sure what's quite wrong, right? But I'm like, well, I can't move. That's wrong.
So what was your warning sign? Let's talk about the warning signs.
You know what? And this ties into probably having lived in an abusive marriage for so many years. And I've heard it from my acupuncturist and traditional Chinese medicine doctor and my medical doctors. I think I was living for a decade in such a high stressful adrenal capacity level for a decade. And then you get out of a violent, dangerous situation, but the danger never really goes away. So I think that I probably operate generally in rather stressed, which is why I exercise so much, is just to try to relieve that. Like, it's really, for me, exercise, it's good physically, but probably more necessary mentally to have some sort of exhale. And that's probably it, is just chronic stress. And I think I've got a vegan diet, and I exercise every day, and I don't drink, and I think I'm checking all the boxes, but I'm so hyper and uptight about checking all my boxes that it's probably I'm not the most relaxing person to be around. I know that. So I do my best.
That's why you and I get along just fine, because I operate exactly like that, and I think all of us, we gravitate, and we're easy to communicate because we are high energy,
right.
We're at our optimum when we actually have a full plate. And there's a saying that says, when you want something done, you give it to a busy person.
Or I often counsel clients, especially if I'm coming in, quite often it's their financial administrative duties that are falling apart. I'll often say, look, I don't care if you have a CPA or a CA, I don't care about the letters. In your case, who you really need, I always recommend a working mother. And the reason why is that for at least some of these get her done positions, I actually think that a working mother, in my experience, is efficient, head down, get the job done. You know, they're not off having beers or golfing if the job's not done. Like, I don't care, drink, golf, do whatever you want. But for a lot of these jobs, but it's really meticulous and sometimes redundant, I always recommend a working mother.
Or a lawyer.
Just
or
a
commercial leasing
in general. It's going to be efficient. I don't know if everyone,
Yeah.
and Kyla, if you agree. I find that I always call the women the worker bees, and sometimes I do it with an annoyed eye roll because we get it done. Mother or not mother, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think I was a worker bee in my 20s with no children as well, whereas we're the ones who get it done. Not saying that men are lazy and don't get it done, but
it's an understood, we understand.
Yeah. Anyway, I've talked enough.
So thank you, and I'm glad that you did. And now I want to introduce Grace, and then we're going to start into our questions because I love this. Grace, I was so glad that you're able to join us. I know that you know, a client calls, it's not planned. Your life is 24/7. You are a director of sales and marketing for Caldwell Banker Commercial. You are a 2019 Woman of Inspiration Award recipient, a UWN National Ambassador, and we've just pivoted to start the Universal Woman Owned Certification Committee, which you are a part of. So I have all of our certification team members on, which is super exciting. So if anybody's wondering what that team looks like and who they are, this is the team of rock stars behind that certification process. So Grace, you're a 5-star agent, and right now you are living your passion. You work, you live and breathe real estate. You're on call 24/7, and being a real estate commercial realtor, it's more than about showing properties. Okay, it's about strong relationships and strong negotiation skills, and really being able to listen to the client's needs. So right now you're busier than ever because, of course, everybody's working from home. They got to figure out what they're going to do with the building. So thank you so much for joining us on the call today. We were talking about how COVID has impacted you. So maybe I'll just get you to jump in that. You've been interviewed a lot on this subject, but I'd love you to talk about that here.
Yeah, thanks, Monica. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Yeah, you know, it is challenging times, especially for businesses right now, in various areas, leasing, staffing. You know, there's lots of businesses now that are able to open. I mean, they've been granted the okay from the government, stage 2, but they're choosing not to open because even if they're able to open at capacity, there's still the physical distancing. So for example, a spin class, how many spin bikes can you fit in there? 5. So in a business sense, it doesn't make sense to even open. And then the staffing issues, because of this, you know, CERB benefit, it's causing issues with people coming back to work because it affects their CERB benefit. So I think what ultimately it's the plan, the relief the government has given is not true relief. It's complicated, it's convoluted. And, you know, accountants, lawyers, they're all trying to figure it out as well. It's this big, huge formula. And so a lot of commercial landlords are even opting not to do it because it's so complicated. I'm told there's 1 in 5 landlords that are actually exercising this benefit. And it's been so far gone. You know, the relief it has been, it's so slow. It was so slow to roll out that it's like the businesses now are saying it's too late. It's just too late to make any effect, that so many has closed. And we will continue to see this closures all over. And it's very unfortunate, because something really should have been done right from the beginning. As soon as these businesses were mandated to close, then the benefits, like true benefits, not taxable relief, and you know, the grants, forgivable loans should have happened right away. You know, in certain countries, they did it. It was right, it was immediate from the time, like France, Italy, Spain, US had systems in place to support the businesses, because the businesses are the heart of our economy. So now, I mean, with especially even restaurants, like they're able to open at, there's no capacity, but this physical distancing again, 6 feet apart. So how many people can you fit in? Is that gonna work to keep you, you know, to keep you afloat? You can't even break even at those numbers, unfortunately. So businesses are upset. Imagine building up a business over 25 years or, you know, longer. And all of a sudden this happens, that you're shut down. And then, okay, so now after 4 months, you can open at this, you know, 6 feet apart with all these, all these huge list of things you have to do. I mean, you know, so as a society, we're divided on this. Either you think you're going to die, or, you know, it's a scamdemic. So we need.
Did you say scandemic?
Yeah. So can't sterilize the world. Okay, we can't live in a world of plexiglass all over the place. And we need businesses to survive. So all these riots, I'm thinking, there was no physical distancing. So after 2 weeks, the numbers don't rise. Then what are the medical people gonna say? You see? So they were saying, okay, it's okay for you to riot, just don't yell. like the whole thing, it's such a huge disconnect, I feel. And guess who suffered? The businesses. The businesses has suffered, and it's all over the world. So my job has been sort of to help clients navigate through this disaster, and sort of find ways to pivot in this new sort of abnormal. You know, like it's great, you know, so fitness classes are online, amazing. And I've been doing like Pete and Sarah's classes. They are hard. You should try them. You should try it.
I'm scared.
Like, oh yeah, it is.
And I have echo in the background, so hopefully we can figure out the echo that's going. But I want to say that I appreciate your perspective on that. And I think that's why, I know that is why I wanted you all to be here, and to talk about the perspective from your areas, because, you know, they say that we're all in this together, but we're in different boats. There's some people with no life jacket, and still, like, you know, 14 weeks is a long time to be treading water. And then there's an air mattress, then there's a dinghy, you know, then there's like, honestly, a speedboat. And then some people have the yachts, but we're looking at the people that are on the air mattress are clinging to their life jacket, and some people are driving on yachts. It's not the same, right? So it's really something that we need to be aware of. And the purpose of the Success Summit, as you all know, because we've talked about it, is to bring awareness that female entrepreneurs right now are deeply, deeply impacted. And what can we do to help support, keep the economy, and keep supporting women-owned businesses? How are we going to do that? Because we have to continue to do that. And so, you know, Kyla, you've been sort of instrumental in this. I know that we're going to get into the process about that. We pivoted, you know, we looked at the galaxy of businesses out there, and, you know, a lot of people were online, but a lot of people, everybody went online. So like web developers and, you know, like GoDaddy and Wix, like they're like, okay, we've just sold how many more websites? And then the developers, like you can't even get a developer because everybody's so busy working on building and developing stuff. And so I look at this galaxy of websites and I'm like going, how do I know which one's a woman that I could support her? And so I'm like, great, we'll build the women-owned directory. And so just let's say very clearly, we're launching it, period, right? We're launching that. And it's going to be a big force because everything that I do, I, like yourself, Sarah, I'm like, charge ahead. We're not stopping. It's go. So women-owned directory. So we can actually put all of the women-owned businesses and then the women-led. We can make sure that we have the women-led as well, right? And identify that need, because women-owned, by the criteria, as we know, is 51% ownership. The stakeholder between a women-owned business and the 50%, it's a little bit different for the stakeholder. And, you know, Sarah, you can talk about that because we had a conversation about that too. But it's different. So we need to make sure that we support women and make sure that we actually identify who they are, so we can say, okay, yeah, I have 2 choices. I have 3 choices. I know that that's going to impact a woman. She's a single mom. She's whatever, a business owner, that I can help her keep her head above water, and I can move her from that life jacket maybe to like a dinghy, and then maybe to like a speedboat, and keep pushing it along, right? So I'd love you to jump in, maybe Sarah, and let's talk about supporting women-owned and how important that is.
Well, I think it's really important, as we know, and also in this COVID state that we're in, and schools being out and daycares are shut down. I'm fortunate that my daughters are 10 and 12, where I hope it's legal. I'm pretty sure it is. I leave them. I'm like, okay, you know, we've had our check-in, we've done our, you know, touch point on the homeschooling. Here's your food. I've made you breakfast. Now figure it out, ladies. But not everyone has that. What if my kids were 3 and 5 and I'm trying to do a full-time job? There may be men out there who are also homeschooling and doing all of the cooking and cleaning and laundry, even in a 2-parent household, or there are single fathers. I recognize that. So guess what? Now I don't buy my shampoo from the drugstore or wherever. I buy it from a woman who sells, you know, there's all these Arborns and beauty counters and this and that. So, you know what? That's where, you know, I do what I can. I'm buying my makeup from a woman who's trying her very best to make a go at it. So yeah, I'll support her, and I'll buy my shampoo from so-and-so, and that's helping her. And I, as we talked about when my daughter didn't know that men could go to university, so I do whatever I can at all times I don't just choose a female professional because she's female. I'm choosing her because I actually believe that she's the best. And this is where I don't want us to lose focus, because there are women who are the leaders in their industry. I am a leader in my industry, not because I'm a woman, but because I've worked really freaking hard and published papers and gone out and this and that. Kyla is a leader in her field, not because she's Métis, not because she's female, because she's kick-ass, right? So, and Grace, right? You're not getting any, you know, numbers are numbers are numbers. So we can support one another and create, I think part of the support isn't just the financial, which matters, by the way, right? So I don't just go to my dentist. I tell all of my friends, male and female, this is the best dentist and this is what she does, and I think she's amazing, and this is my lawyer, right? So I'm not making recommendations to, again, check this box. I make recommendations because they are the best in their field at, you know, in industry A or B or C. I don't know any female auctioneers. I have to auction a lot of stuff in my life and liquidations and stuff. So if there's not, then I still go to the best, but there's usually someone competent. But it also creates more than that, to me, is a village. When I was in my 20s, I didn't know the value in the village. You know, I had friends, but I didn't know the value in supporting one another. I didn't know the value in most things. But when I came back, as I talked about the other day, I've intentionally crafted my village and the people that I surround myself with. Sometimes we can't in business and such. There's going to be, you know, negative people, male or female. But to the best of my ability and within my control, I surround myself with, you know, strong, hardworking, open-minded people. It doesn't matter that, like, yes, I'm a total crazy vegan animal activist. It doesn't mean that I don't have animal product eating friends. I do, right? So just open-minded, strong, curious, compassionate people. I'm looking for compassion and empathy and hard work, and that's part of it. So support the other female business owners, not only with money, but in spirit and with just good vibes.
Well said, well said. Money helps right now. Money is king.
Money matters, yeah.
You know, and this is one of the conversations that we've had, was there was $15 million announced to support female entrepreneurs, and not a penny, not one red cent is going out right now. And when we're in a crisis state, not one penny. And it's going to a very select and targeted group of individuals that were award recipients that awarded money in
that already have government ties.
And no applying, no need. And I just would love to know where that is going. And not that we can fix that, but we need to start talking about it, going, okay, so we're not getting support. What can we do? So that's when we pivoted and we started talking about what can we do? Having this conference, bringing leaders together, diverse areas of business, men supporting women, and then we came up with Universal Women Owned. So let's talk about that, because you guys are our certification committee here, and authentically, yeah, this is new. This is a new venture. And I was talking about it earlier this morning. I could barely breathe when I talk about it because I get so excited. Because I had Rhonda from the Au Naturals, who's also one of our ambassadors, who said, great timing. I'm just doing the labels on my products. So let me ask you this. If you were going shopping and you knew that there was a women-owned product on the shelf, would you buy it? We all have choices out there as consumers. So how big of an impact is that going to make in a woman's world when she has maybe, you know, an extra, here's her revenue, and then we can increase that revenue even incrementally. But if everybody takes a piece of it, we can make a change so big. So putting product labels on the products on the shelf so we can tell what's a woman-owned product, that's going to open up some doors. Also some women-led products as well. Right? Because we also have to identify, as we talked about before, that not all women, well, there's 51%, is that 1%. So Kyla, I want you to talk about that 1% and what your team has done and your partner of that organization to take advantage of that opportunity that exists for women owned.
When we were talking about the criteria and the selection criteria for a women-owned business and that extra 1%, I own a business, not the law business, another business, with one of my supporters. It's an online marketing company, and we have 50%, had 50% each. And I said, look, like, you know, our business would be better off if you transferred 1% to me so that I own 51%, because it opens up so many doors for us to apply for things, to say that we're a woman-owned business, and it's going to be better for you and me in the long run. And I got no push It was, you know, a complete, like, of course, this makes perfect sense. And I think a lot of people who are in those 50-50 relationships, or even like, you know, 60-40, or however the balance is, where the woman owns, you know, half or fewer than half of the shares, don't realize how many doors they're closing for the business. And people need to understand that there are millions of women out there who want to direct their money to supporting women rather than to supporting men or to supporting men and women together.
Mm. And Grace, what is your take on that?
Well, of course, you know, to have a majority women-owned business, and then to have that label on products makes people aware that, yes, you're supporting, you know, a woman-owned business, and they're aware of it. I mean, without this awareness, well, people wouldn't know. So I think we need the reach to be able to explain why this is important and why this is a benefit for everybody to support women-owned businesses. But it's the awareness that's, I think, key. If people don't know about it, then they can't support it.
Bingo. I just went to put on lip gloss. I've been on air since 9 o'clock this morning. Thank goodness I'm a camel. So yes, I have got to say, I think, yes, please, Sarah.
I typed a quick question. Kyla, can you expand? You don't need to do a deep dive on what doors you saw opening pre this women-led and women-owned designation or certification. Were you speaking about grants? Were you speaking about loans? Were you speaking about profile? What, on a high level, what do you mean?
Yeah. All of those things, grants, loans, profiles, other directories that exist. I have a colleague in Texas who owns a furniture manufacturing company, and she said, you know, she owns the company even though her husband does all of the day-to-day work running it. She's too busy with her law practice. She just manages. And she said it's been so much better for her business the way that they've structured that, because they're able to take advantage of those opportunities. They're able to say that they're women owned, and they do get people who seek it out because there is a woman at the helm.
Interesting.
And if I can share, so at the beginning of COVID, I was strategically, you know, wanting to learn about the Fortune 500 companies, wanting to see what their diversity programs were and speak to them, get in touch with as many of the CEOs of the organizations as possible. And, you know, I was really lucky to have a lot of conversations with the CEOs of the company where I probably wouldn't have actually had access to them had they not been at home and not as, you know, in their office and you know, the AA, no, he's not available or she's not available. So I was really lucky to have those conversations. But what I really realized, and of course it's regulated in the US, is that the Fortune 500 companies have money in their budgets to allocate to supporting women-owned businesses. And it's not regulated in Canada like it is in the US, but that is a huge benefit. And we
talked to-do list, Monica.
Well, that is the to-do list. We talked about that. So it's first the certification process, but the next thing is to circle back and say, guess what we pivoted and did? Not only do we have a corporate diversity program, but now we also are certifying women-owned businesses. And I want to talk about the process because we're about 147, and I want to make sure that we get the information out there because we're just launching it. It's brand new. And what we've been able to do is skinny down the ability to certify a women-owned business with our certification, trademark logo, and get that all out the door and give women the advantage when they're applying for RFPs, when they're applying for grants, when they're trying to, like, you know, Rhonda, be visible in the stores and kombucha, wild tea, kombucha, and all of the products and services, is separate them from everybody else and give them an advantage. Now, it doesn't guarantee it, but it gives them an advantage. And we can do that. And how quickly do you think we can get that done? Like, I did the research extensive, and it was like, you know, 12 weeks. And I'm like, Why are we making life so hard for women? Why do they have to give their firstborn? It didn't make sense to me. So as you know, we've spent a lot of time with the process and the criteria. So, you know, we can notarize it. So maybe Kyla, talk about what we've been working on with the process of the legalizing, or sort of that, to verify the ownership of women-owned. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Rather than requiring women to get all of these documents and spend all of this time gathering up all of this information, we're trying to create a very simple affidavit where they would swear under the penalty of perjury, if they don't tell the truth, that they are a woman-owned business or a woman-run business, that they meet our criteria, sign that and send it in to us. And then we would have a separate process if there were any questions about that, where we could verify the information if necessary.
Drop the microphone. That took about a minute. How easy was that? And now I want to talk about how fast that could happen. You know, like 2 weeks is, a good enough turnaround. But, since I think it was Grace, I don't know who brought it up first, but they're like, do you realize that now I can notarize documents over, like, virtually? So literally, if somebody calls an SOS and said, I'm completing my RFP right now, and I would love to have the opportunity to certify I'm women-owned, here's my documents. We can say, fire off this affidavit, get it back to us, but I don't have anybody to notarize it. Well, that's okay, because our team does. So we can do expedite in like literally 72 hours, where we can arrange a phone call with either one of our team members to notarize that document. So that lady can actually submit it, get it done, and send it back to us. We can review it, expedite it, and get it to her fast. No complications, no red tape, no firstborns. Just saying. Like, that's what we need to do for women.
Yeah, women have enough, I think, on their plates, as Sarah was saying. She's so busy, she, got sick from it. We have enough on our plates. We don't need to be running around trying to jump through a ton of hoops when it's not necessary. And I think making things a lot easier for women is one way that we can support women just generally in the world. Let's make things easier. What can be simplified should be simplified.
Amazing. And I have to share, what was really interesting was Rhonda almost had her package done with the new logo on it, because she's actually our very first one that's going to go through that process, right? Support women in your network. And, so let's give her the opportunity. And she was sharing something that I didn't know about, was that stores and retailers, and we know that, the Walmarts in the world, the Costcos of the world, have these mandates to support women. So why can't they say that they support women and look for the labels on their shelf, and then actually make space on their shelf for them without these? And I didn't know that there was actually a price for the shelf space. So only the big brands could take up that shelf space. So how about supporting women-owned products, really, and giving them a discount, or actually just saying, here's a shelf, we'd love to have you. And we support women-owned businesses, so people can go there and know that they support them and go and buy the products. How great would that be? Just throwing it out there. We're on it, right? Okay.
When I worked in retail, we had these little flags that we could on products that would stick out from the shelf, and it would be, this is a green product. Why don't we have those for women-owned products owned by people who are from diverse backgrounds? Those should be things on every shelf of every store.
So we got a lot of work to do, I think. We got to get that package out back to the corporate companies, but I think first place is start talking about it, get some awareness about it. This is the first time that we're actually talking about it, which is so exciting. And I just have to say that I am beyond grateful for you three to step up as national ambassadors and say, yeah, I may not own my own business per se. I mean, Sarah, your partner in your business. Well, I guess you are owners in your business.
Italy thing, I can only do litigation support work through my 100% owned corp. That's separate. It's just a...
Right, so you're women-owned. You're women-owned.
I have that, but yeah, my main business is a 50-50. And Kyla, I'm thinking, okay, could I take 1% and hold those in trust and have a trust agreement, but let my partner still have the voting? And am I still... Things going through my head. I'm like, how do
Well,
I?
and those are the conversations that we need to have, is let's get creative. Because when we were talking about it, we honestly had that conversation and said, so what if we were to say 50-50? What, because we know that women that are leading companies that have silent partners are still doing the lion's share of the work. So how do we recognize that? And to be honest with you, we'd be pushing up a mountain that just would be so hard. So let's recognize women-led companies and recognize the women-owned companies, because there's already very, very regulated areas for the 51%, and focus on that, but also recognize the women-led. So that's what we've done too, is we're recognizing both, because they have different purposes. So I want to say I'm super excited. We've now spilled the beans to everybody. Now we just got to get to work. Well, we're just going to start talking about it more and making that available, and wait for the women to take some action. So I want to say thank you very much, ladies. Is there any last words that you'd like to share with everybody?
No, I'm just excited, and I think we need to just keep reaching out and raising people up, helping them up if they're down, and let's just create space. Just create space for everyone, and have some compassion to the best of our ability, right? We all have a story. Everyone has a story. So just support each other.
Thank you. And Kyla?
I want to echo what Sarah said. We need to support each other, lift each other up. And if you see a woman who's struggling, rather than, use that as an opportunity to springboard yourself, lift her up, because that's going to springboard you in the process.
Thank you. Grace?
Yeah, I think exactly what Sarah said. We're all in this together, and we can only just help each other, really, and focus on that to help each other. So go further. We go further together.
And together we are stronger, ladies. And I truly believe that, in all honesty, we can do so much. And I'm excited for the future. Thank you so much for your time today and your expertise. And we'll see you at the round table at 3.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.